Hello and welcome to Game of Box Office. Today we will make a prediction on the box office performance of Batman vs Superman. Let's start right away. The question we have to answer right here is not really if the movie will be a big box office hit. Batman vs Superman is a lock for $900 million or more, whatever will happen. The most important question is though, how big the movie can become when everything works well. As everybody should know, Batman vs Superman is the follow-up movie on Man of Steel and combines the two most loved superheroes of America with one another, as well as introducing the character of Wonder Woman. The last movie on Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, grossed an immense $1.084 billion worldwide and was widely acclaimed just like its two predecessors The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. Unfortunately for Batman vs Superman though, the Dark Knight trilogy was created and directed by Christopher Nolan, who is not involved in the making of Batman vs Superman, and since Batman is portrayed by Ben Affleck and not by Christian Bale anymore, and the style will probably be totally different because Zack Snyder will direct the movie more so that it fits the style of Man of Steel. Now that we dropped Zack Snyder's name, it's obviously important to talk about him. Zack Snyder directed Man of Steel, and with that the first installment of the Justice League franchise, and since he will direct Batman vs Superman, it's his reputation and his style and tone in filmmaking that will influence the success of Batman vs Superman and with that the Justice League. As it happens, Man of Steel underperformed in the eyes of many people and did not match the quality most audiences wanted to see. As a result to that, Batman vs Superman has to overcome this negative factor. Really, a lot of movies from Zack Snyder underperformed or did not manage to gross their budget back. 300 did great back in 2007. But besides that, Watchmen, All of Ga'Hoole, Sucker Punch and Man of Steel did not live up to their expectations. So let's begin with a pessimistic outcome. We see Man of Steel at $375 million in the domestic market and at $550 million in the overseas markets, for a worldwide total of $925 million. Why do we think that? A lot of people were let down by Man of Steel's style and the overall storytelling, and the first trailers from Batman vs Superman really don't show any difference to Man of Steel. Also, a lot of people were disappointed by the Batman vs Superman trailers and were pissed off because they are taking too much away. The huge box office size of Nolan's Batman trilogy is not going to affect the movie by much, because a lot of people are aware of the fact that the Batman part in Batman vs Superman will probably be totally different to what we were used to see in the last three films. Batman will help the movie to be more successful in the overseas regions, because Batman was way more successful overseas than Man of Steel. At the moment, most people are predicting Man of Steel to have an opening weekend between $145 and $155 million. So when we take the average of an opening of $150 million, Batman vs Superman would need to get to a 2.5 multiplier to finish with $375 million in the domestic market. A few people might say that this is too low, but Man of Steel finished its run with a 2.49 multiplier. So actually, when the quality of Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman is quite equal, this is a pretty accurate prediction. So, this is our pessimistic prediction. Even in the pessimistic scenario, Batman vs Superman will bring a big amount of profit in the wallet of Warner Bros. So there is no need to fear a bad outcome for the movie. Let's move on to our realistic prediction. Let's assume for a quick moment that Batman vs Superman will receive good reviews. Not outstanding, but good. Something in the middle 70% range at Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. Unfortunately for the movie, it has to overcome the letdown from Man of Steel, since most people will experience this movie as a sequel to Man of Steel and not as a sequel to The Dark Knight Rises. To get to that point, Zack Snyder and Ben Affleck have to do a great job at the portrayal of Batman. In the recent past, Batman has been a far bigger box office performer than Superman, and the version from Christopher Nolan was loved by nearly everyone. On top of that, Batman is the far more liked superhero when it comes to territories outside of the domestic market, as you can see in the far bigger overseas gross from The Dark Knight Rises in comparison with the overseas gross from Man of Steel. In this realistic scenario, we see Batman vs Superman at $430 million in the domestic market and at $640 million in the overseas markets, for a worldwide total of over $1 billion, $1.07 billion to be on point. Why do we think this is realistic? Warner Brothers is not dumb, and they know that they will have a big cash cow in their wallet when they do a good job of introducing the Justice League to the audience. Since Batman vs Superman is the first very big milestone in the direction to the Justice League, they will do their best to deliver a good film with high quality. So it's realistic to assume that they will accomplish that. Also, Ben Affleck is coming from a good reign of successes. He won the Oscar for Best Film with Argo and since then starred in a Terrence Malick flick and was the big part in the critical acclaimed and well-loved David Fincher movie Gone Girl. So when he plays Bruce Wayne in a way that most audiences like it will affect the movie big time. What will happen when the movie exceeds all expectations in terms of quality? In other words, what is our optimistic prediction? About $545 million in the domestic market as well as $750 million in the overseas markets for a combined worldwide total of $1.295 billion. Some might say this number is too low, since The Avengers and The Avengers Age of Ultron grossed way more with $1.519 and $1.405 billion worldwide. But you really can't compare Batman vs Superman to The Avengers that good. The Avengers was the first film when a team-up of superheroes happened, and it was a unique event all the way because no one did that until then. Marvel built toward that goal over a long distance of time with 5 movies, and The Avengers included much more characters than the Batman vs Superman movie probably will. Also, Batman vs Superman really just had Man of Steel as a runner-up to it, and will not have that much of a unique feeling since Marvel already did that job twice. Nevertheless, the $1.295 billion would be an extremely good result. It would be the 3rd highest grossing superhero movie of all time, just behind The Avengers and Age of Ultron. And also it would be the 2nd highest grossing comic book movie in the domestic market of all time, just behind The Avengers from 2012 and ahead of The Dark Knight Rises and Age of Ultron. When this scenario sets in, and the Wonder Woman film in 2017 also performs quite well, the Avengers may have to hand over the comic book movie throne to the Justice League. But we really don't see that happen. We see the Justice League likely at something around what Age of Ultron did, and never forget that in 2018 and 2019 there are still Avengers Part 3, Infinity War Part 1 and 2 to come. Our next video will be an analysis on Star Trek, Godzilla, or a prediction about Captain America Civil War. We hope you enjoyed this prediction. Be sure to hit a like and subscribe to our channel. You can also support us on the social networks listed below. See you soon. Bye bye.